The path to enlightenment depends upon kind of consistency in focus. A Tibetan word for that, trempa, sati in Sanskrit, often translated as mindfulness or recollection. It means keeping an eye on our priorities. Often we see in all Buddhist schools the kyabdro in Tibetan, kyabdro, which sometimes translated as refuge, turning for refuge, going for refuge. Alex Berzin on the Berzin Archives calls it taking a safe and sound direction. But the meaning is to always keep a part of the mind aware of the spiritual element in every situation. There is a problem in practice. For instance, when growing up as a Christian, my dad always grumbled that he found people very religious in church on Sundays, but not very religious outside of that environment. For him, that was rather frustrating and disappointing. And as a result, I think for the last 20 years of his life, he didn't attend church very much at all, just funerals of friends and weddings or those kind of special events. So this idea of kyabdro, or refuge, is a kind of a conscious training or a systematic way of keeping our mind in the church of our enlightenment path all the time in every activity. That's its purpose, or that's its focus. I think the idea there is that we humans live a very conceptual life, and also we're both gregarious and somewhat addicted to habits. And conceptuality here means we're always seeing things, smelling things, tasting, touching, and getting carried away in those seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, and losing contact with the deeper element of our soul, or our spirit during that process. In other words, it's a little bit like Sankapa, the guru of the first Dalai Lama, once put it, rushed along by the river of karma. Karma here means activity. We basically get carried off into unconscious living. And living unconsciously, we bump into rocks and the boat easily capsizes. So how to live always, to enhance the conscious living aspect of experience. Put another way, we have both a sense of self and a sense of self-experiencing something. Apple, a television show, someone walking down the street, a butterfly on a flower, and so on. Those two things are always present, sense of self and sense of something else. So we easily veer off course when we lose the balance between those two senses. And kyabdro, or the regular review of refuge, is meant to reestablish that balance. I often translate Kebdro as spiritual inspiration. Again, it's just, whatever we say in English for these words always has some kind of other meaning and doesn't fully capture the meaning of the original, just as Alex Berzon's Taking a Safe and Sound Direction captures some of the meaning but brings in some meanings which aren't there and overlooks some meanings which are there. It's a problem with languages, isn't it? Especially in the world of abstract thinking or abstract ideas. So this practice of what is refuge or spiritual awareness or spiritual inspiration as a practice, it means 3 times during the day and 3 times during the darkness. That usually we do the refuge mantra in Sanskrit. The Dalai Lama recommended internationalists, modernists doing it in Sanskrit as kind of a common platform. Namo Gurubhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Gurubhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. And doing that mantra and usually visualizing a Buddha at the center of one's heart, thinking this is my Buddha mind. Thinking also that this is the presence of my Guru, Namo Gurubhya, in the 4 senses that I discussed in an earlier review. The ultimate nature of my own mind, my own experience or learning, what I can access of my own experience. Words, wise words and guidance of the great enlightened masters of the past. And finally, my living spiritual teachers. Namo Gurubhya, Namo Buddhaya, my own Buddha mind. Namo Dhammaya. Those instructions that I have received in terms of spiritual progress or spiritual training, but also referring to the Dharma as the Gaklam, the freedom state. As much freedom as I can draw upon, with Dharma meaning something like that. In other words, in every experience, there's a slightly tight, enclosed sense. In other words, we're thinking of a horse and our mind is reduced to hoarseness, or thinking of a lizard and our mind is reduced to an image of a lizardness. At the same time, there's a kind of a silence or an infinity aspect. So the Gaklam in Tibetan, meaning the path of quiet, the path of silence, or the path of no movement. Gak literally means stopped. Everything is stopped and stilled. Bringing our mind into a state of stillness or silence 3 times during the day and daylight, and 3 times during night. And then with Sangha, meaning those living beings who inspire us, who we look to as role models. And if they're to be spiritual role models, then it's not just like hockey players or soccer players or political figures or whatever, but those beings who we look to as somewhat more spiritually consistent and evolved, or going in the right direction spiritually, I guess you could say like that, evolving in a positive direction. Sort of role models on a higher level role model. when the Tibetans do that formula in Tibetan, they like to go Sangye Chodan Sogi Shonamla until I myself become a Buddha. I look to Sangye Chodan Sogi Sho, to Buddha mind, to the Dharma, which liberates, liberating Dharma. In other words, liberating the liberation state and the spiritual community until I become a Buddha. They like to add that by means of practicing generosity and the other paramita, the other perfections, ethics and patience and joyous activity, meditation, and the wisdom trainings. May I achieve enlightenment and benefit all living beings. So I think for Tibetans, because they're a very strong Mahayana country, this idea, may I achieve enlightenment, is important, but why? In order to benefit all living beings. So they like to recite that 3 times. 3 times, and then the light changes and you drive on to work or home or wherever you're going, or if you're sitting in a park, just thinking in that kind of way. And often as a visualization, they put a Buddha figure and they think not that this is Buddha Shakyamuni, but that this is the universal Buddha mind. And they put it either at the center of the heart or in front or sort of just above the head. And it sends out lights and totally erases all kind of negative feelings and sicknesses, illnesses, and brings happiness and joy. And I think the first in the series we talked about was a commitment to inner joy. In every meditation session, even if it's 2 minutes or even if it's 30 seconds at a red light on the way to work, we should end it with a feeling of joy. So Kyabsu Droa, drawing spiritual inspiration, or turning for refuge, in other words, invoking the idea, recollecting the idea of Buddha mind, the state of stillness, and the great spiritual beings of the world. And Buddha himself said anyone who does that 3 times a day and 3 times at night will day by day, night by night, go from high to higher. In other words, being born as human, we're already on somewhat of a blessed state, above the cockroaches and the anchovies and so on and so forth, above the ghosts and the hell beings. We've already got something going for us. So that's what we have going for us, is high. Going from high to higher. Kongne kongtu pewarsho. May it grow from high to higher. So Buddha himself said that if we do this recollection 3 times a day, 3 times a night, then our life will improve day by day, night by night, and evolve in the direction of enlightenment. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
흐른 산등 흩들어오던 수밀지지 하르기던 하우틀러 탑칠라서니 무릉 골리고스 멜리리 팅큰 텔리리 팅큰 바이님이 기띠기친 유르도 들지테 이띠리 테리 힝우금 보르 흥가에다 노타게 민